What's up? It's Andrew from the band Ripped to Shreds, and these are objectively the 10 best metal records of 2025. If you disagree with these picks, you are listening to music incorrectly. And please remember that black metal is not music, so don't come at me in the comments saying, why isn't Bloodhouse Nord or Have a Crew New on the list? So I've been following Bog since Pornographic Seizures, and they've gone through a lot of style changes. They started off as down-tuned drug death, contrasting slow, trippy, pinch harmonic riffs with Cody's gospel chops drumming. And sadly, that's the only version I've seen live when they played with Gulch and Fentanyl in San Jose. All their subsequent tours have been with bands that you couldn't pay me to watch. They changed primary songwriters on the second album, Homicidal Ecstasy. And they kind of lost me with their shift into like chuggy BDM. But now on Hideous Aftermath, they've changed styles again to more straightforward death metal with some slammy breakdowns. Some of the songs run a little bit long, but I think there's still a lot of fun moments. My favorite song on it is probably Repulsive Demise. The insistent alien alarm whistle and Godflesh drum machine make it really feel like a Sangui Suga Pile collaboration. Deterioration has had a non-stop stream of releases over the last 15 years, with each one making slight iterations on their sound, and Prepare for the Worst introduces gang vocals, traditional terrorizer blasting, because almost everything Joe does is like suffocation, kick, snare, and cymbal all on the same beat. And on this one, he's doing the traditional split blasting in some parts. And he's even put toms on his kit this time. His trademark is no toms, no fills, only like this giant china, his two main crashes, and a bunch of like small splashes. So the riffing and the screaming, classic Deterioration, basically unchanged. So if you like their old stuff, you will like this new one. This is the second split collaboration between Agathocles and Unholy Grave, where they cover each other's songs. Both are bands that have experimented with various kinds of production, from pretty fucking raw and lo-fi to relatively well-produced. Agathocles' side is a little more hi-fi by their standards. I mean, it's not like, you're gonna hear sample-replaced blast beats, but you can actually tell apart the kick and the snare. While Unholy Grave's side is more typical for them, with very lo-fi, blown-out vocals from Takaho. They grind through a bunch of each other's classics, and it's kind of cool to see Unholy Grave's interpretation of A Start At Least and Is It Really Mine. They've still got Takaho's kind of strange sing-wail vocal type thing on top of them, and AG's side sounds really fucking fat with straightforward grinders like Suicide Bombers. So this Gridlink album is a bit of an odd one. The guitars and bass tracks on Ambergray and Orphan were re-recorded, and they combined it into a single album, but they kept the vocal and drum tracks from the originals. It's not a one-to-one re-recording either. They've added a lot of melody layers of guitars, de-emphasizing the original riffs to unify it with the aesthetic of Coronet Juniper and Longhenna. I have this relatively low at number 7 for two reasons. One, it's old songs that are reimagined, and two, I don't like the Orphan side. I was very ambivalent about the original recording of Ambergray, and I always thought it was like the weakest one out of all the Gridlink albums. This new version, with remixed drums, everything sounds a lot punchier and more powerful and clear. I really like it. But Orphan is like my favorite Gridlink album, even more than Longhenna. So any little change feels very strange to me, especially because now the riffs are pushed way down and what you're mainly hearing are melody guitars. I just kind of don't recognize it anymore. The drums on Orphan have always been like kind of crispy with a hyped high end, but the remix, the cymbals are super trashy and piercing, and I don't think it's that pleasant to listen to. So this is definitely the most slept on release of the whole year. Traveler is undoubtedly Slough Feg's most popular album, and up until now they've stubbornly refused to return to the sound of Traveler, making weirder and more obscure albums like Atavism or Hardworlder. But here on Ephemeral Glades, they drop most of their folky trappings in favor of straight ahead, galloping traditional heavy metal. And they revive a whole bunch of familiar musical motifs and lyrical themes from the original Traveler album. I do like New Organon and Digital Resistance a lot, but I think this is as close as you can get to a perfect sequel to the Traveler album. I didn't know that Facebook meme pages made music, but apparently it's not that uncommon, as seen with this new Noisy Neighbors album. No bullshit, no frills grind. Their page claims that they're raw D-beat grindcore, but the production of Insolvent is actually pretty hi-fi. Far less raw than Deterioration or Agathocles. I would call the riffs mostly metallic, even on the D-beat parts. This also comes through in the song arrangements, where they're at minimum a minute and a half, and they don't really have any stop starts or like really frantic structures. It's a very solid metal grind album. I will listen to anything that the New Jersey collective NVNM puts out, from Massive Retaliation to Death Fortress to Apex Winter. Inferno Death Passion, the 2018 album from Siege Column, I mean, it's one of my favorite albums from the 2010s period. But I wasn't like super into Dark Side Legions, which was the follow-up. So this newest one, Sulfur Omega, I think is like a return to form. It sits somewhere between like a cleaner, more it's still pretty fucking raw, a more discernible version of Blasphemy's Fallen Angel of Doom. And I think maybe in its DNA you can hear a bit of Slaughter's Strapato. I mean, there's a lot of ass-kicking riffs, there's a lot of D-beats, and frantic blasting that's like falling apart at the seams. I think Joe's actually improved as a drummer, since on Inferno Death Passion, it's mostly just suffocation style blasting with kick, snare, cymbal all on the same beat. And now there's more traditional blasting, and you can hear him actually hit the snare, and the tempos are a lot steadier. But the production value is still very fuzzy, lo-fi. It sounds like a tape demo, and that is part of what makes it feel so sick and evil. This new Haptar album, perfect punky grindcore from Squamish. It's got a very pingy snare that doesn't like dominate the whole mix. Their riffs are mostly reliant on like sliding power chords, kind of like Honest Snop or Parliamentress Sodomy, but downtuned and without the wacky antics. There's no metal bullshit like tremolo riffing or chunky palm muting. It's raw and noisy while still being totally clear. Go and listen to it now if you haven't. Gridlink minus John would be a very glib way to describe Barren Path, but it's mostly accurate. Takafumi and Brian Fajardo join forces to deliver crushing speed metal grindcore, but they leave out a lot of the avert melodic flourishes that you heard on Coronet Juniper or Long Henna. To my ears, it sounds like a cross between the original versions of Ambergris and Orphan, with every song focused on speed. The vocalist, Mitch, ex-Marta and Noisier, doesn't try to like take John's place with that signature falsetto screaming. He alternates between like a mid-range howl and low grunts. It is a return to aggression, especially if you found Coronet Juniper a little too melodic. And at number 1, we have Hedonist. Scapulomancy? It's the deformed baby of Sacrilege and early 90s Bolt Thrower, with vocalist Athena's low growls reverberating straight out of hell. They don't rely only on Bolt Thrower style double bass either. There's a lot of skank beats and even war metal blasting. RTS actually played with them on our Vancouver date on our tour this year, and they were by far my favorite band that I've played with all year. And when we were on tour in Japan, I saw a lot of people wearing Hedonist shirts. They toured Japan like, I think, the year before, or maybe 23, I'm not sure. Their live show is super intense, and the album totally captures that. It's recorded by their drummer, who used to play in Iskra, and he also did recording and mixing for bands like Six Brew Bantha or Altered Dead. It's like a very warm production, but it doesn't try to be, you know, like super cult and lo-fi. It's clear where it needs to be and powerful where it needs to be. And all the riffs just like hit you like a fucking truck. And to break up those riffs, they layer in some melodies and some solos, always in service of making the song fucking sick. So that's why Hedonist is my number one of 2025. Let me know in the comments just how wrong you guys are about music, what you guys like this year. I will roast your fucking terrible picks down below. That's all I got for today. Eat ass, blast fast, and peace.